The document story from Joe Biden continues to get stranger, and really honestly, it continues to trigger more people on the left than it does on the right, and I think a lot of that is because, well, most people know that it's not going to do anything, but we'll talk just a bit about what's happening there, what this means, and where we go with that. In other news, the House GOP has passed their rules package, and it appears that Swalwell, Schiff, and Omar are off their committees, and so is Dan Crenshaw. So this is a little bit going both directions here, but we'll talk a bit about what's happening there and what that means and how Congress is going to shape up as we go. The Biden admin is reportedly weighing a national ban on gas stoves because, well, they're just going to do crazy things that are going to screw them over as they go. And we go back and revisit the Biden border situation because, well, we didn't get to it yesterday. It is going to be all this and more. I got more votes than Kevin McCarthy. I am Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. It's incredible. I've never seen a technology company have this kind of problem before. 2 nights in a row, as soon as I went live at 6, everything was crashing down. I was getting skipped frames, dropped frames, and even after I dropped out of OBS, I was getting skipped and dropped frames. I shut down OBS and I brought it back up, and I have no studio mode, so I'm just running this as normal in one window right now. So yeah, we're having all kinds of problems, and I think it might be time to go start dumping Streamlabs here in the near future because, well, if I can't operate the stream the way I'm comfortable with, they have no use to me. But you know, that's some back-end stuff right now. That's some stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you guys don't necessarily need to look at. I'm actually looking at my stream right now, and it looks like I am streaming in a higher quality and a higher bandwidth than what I used to, which is, I do enjoy that. I'm actually going to go and look at the YouTube monitor just to see if I am in a bit of a higher, no, I'm still in 720 over there, but I mean, I can see myself on the Streamlabs screen, and I am in full 1080, which is what I have my camera turned down to. My webcam is a 4K webcam, but I am in full 1080 right now, so we've got that going on over here. I wonder how I'm doing over, yeah, I guess I do look a little bit sharper on the other ones, but, oh, I guess I am in 720 on there too, but regardless, we've got a bunch of other stuff to go with other than what's going on in the behind the scenes stuff here. So we're going to get right started here. By the way, we are moving into, I think the first major purchase I'm going to make once I'm here is get the Joe Rogan microphone, the Shure, the $400 one that Rogan uses for everything. So that's going to be coming down the pipes too. But we've got a bunch of things that are going on, and oh, interesting. I gotta go figure out what's going on with that too. I got a DM from somebody that I had no idea what was going on with that. But anyway, we've got to get on with the news here. So before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, and the No Gimmicks podcast as we come together to try to bring you a better news experience that is by the common man for the common man, because the big frustration that I've always had with the news is the fact that so many people get their news from somebody who is just kind of sitting around there and wearing a suit that costs more than your house and has never had to wonder, do I eat or do I pay the bill? Do I pay the rent or do I pay the electric? And a lot of things like that. And I do hope that most of you haven't had to do that as well, but some of you have, and you know, I have. I'll tell you right off the bat, I was poor. I've had to do that before, but it's getting better now, and I look at some of the policies that have helped along in forcing me to struggle, that have hurt me in the long run here, and I do want to talk a bit about that from that perspective. So that's what we see coming off of that. Let's get into the news, and we are going to start, as always, with the Dow. get the live chat up here so I can see what you guys are doing. Looking in at the Dow right now, 33,704.10, which is a relatively update. Did have a couple little dips below the previous close, but keeping itself above water on the day for the most part here. About a 0.5% up to 186.45 to 33,704.10. So some good news coming off that, and we'll see what happens when what IBD has to say with that. Looking at your Bitcoin, which is at 17,433.10. That is up $255 and 20 US cents, or about 1.5%. So looks like we are picking up some steam on the cryptocurrency exchanges. I actually got an email before we went live saying that my Shiba Inu is actually experiencing some larger than life run up too. So we'll see what's happening with that. The gas prices in Madison are holding steady. The quick trip on the west side is at 298. The quick trip on the east side is at 298. The quick trip leaving town is at 309. There's a lot of quick trips in town there. 310 entering the isthmus, 306 on the isthmus, 303 leaving on the belt line at the BP. The speedway on the west side is at 308. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but this is about the same prices that we were looking at yesterday. So we will continue to watch this and see how this tracks. I do hope it comes down a little bit and see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow rises amid Powell comments. Boeing slides on downgrade from Scott Latonin. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose on Tuesday amid Fed Chair Jerome Powell's comments. Meanwhile, aerospace giant Boeing slid after a Morgan Stanley downgrade. Powell appeared at a Okay, it's in Stockholm. That's why it's spelt so weird and probably pronounced very weird. Sveriges Riksbank International Symposium on Central Bank Independence in Stockholm. That's in Sweden. The central bank is strongly committed to reducing inflation, even though interest rate increases to restrain economic growth could fuel political blowback, commented Powell in prepared remarks. Powell's prepared remarks didn't comment on the Federal Reserve's upcoming interest rate decisions, but instead emphasized the importance of central bank independence without political interference. Powell's speech came on the heels of comments from Atlanta Federal Reserve President Raphael Bostic on San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly that tripped up markets on Monday. Daly and Bostic each pointed to Fed rate hike increases to somewhere above 5%. Powell's comments also follow Friday's jobs report, which saw wage growth cooling much more than expected and workers clocking fewer hours for a second straight month. Yes, again, I remind you that what they have going on is they need to see you lose everything in order for them to say, hey, yes, go back and invest some more. The data should allow the Fed to further slow its pace of interest rate hikes. Late Monday, Jefferies reported earnings that met estimates and sales that topped forecast. Jefferies shares lost more than 1% in morning trade. Albertsons climbed 1% after an earnings beat. Bed Bath & Beyond jumped 12% in morning trade after missing estimates for its fiscal third quarter. Other companies reported later this week, including KB Homes, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo. On the market today, Dow Aerospace leader Boeing dropped 2.2% after Morgan Stanley downgraded the stock from overweight to equal weight. Royal Caribbean rose 1% after Morgan Stanley upgraded the cruise operator from underweight to equal weight. Finally, AT&T gained 1.4% as Wells Fargo upgraded the stock from equal to overweight. EV maker Tesla reversed more than 1% lower Tuesday amid reports the automaker delivered more than 10,000 vehicles in a single day on Friday. Dow Jones tech giants Apple and Microsoft were both higher after today's stock market open. Deere, IBD leaderboard stock Elf Beauty, Rio Tinto, and Super Microcomputer, as well as Dow Jones names Caterpillar, Chevron, and Walmart, are among the top stocks to buy and watch with the markets back in rally mode. I don't think that's going to last. The oil prices and treasury yields after Tuesday's opening bell, the Dow rose 0.2 while the S&P gained 0.15 and the tech-heavy NASDAQ moved up 0.25% in morning action. Among the ETFs, the NASDAQ 100 Tracker Invesco QQQ Trust rose 0.2 and the SPDR S&P 500 traded up 0.15 early Tuesday. The 10-year yield ticked higher to 3.58% Tuesday morning, looking to snap a 2-day losing streak. Meanwhile, oil prices headed for a third straight advance, recovering to around the midpoint of their recent trading range. West Texas Intermediate futures rose less than 1%, trading around $75 a barrel. So, a lot of stuff staying in the even territory, with 3.58 still being the benchmark for the Treasury yield, because, hey, they need you to invest in the bonds instead of trying to tax it out of everybody, but that's what we have coming off this. I've got one more in finance from the Daily Wire. Talking on the opposite end, we're going to have to fix this, JP Morgan Chase CEO sounds the alarm over soaring national debt. From Ben Ziesloft, which we do, he's right. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon warned about the national debt, expressing concerns that the federal government's obligations will eventually create a financial meltdown, even as markets exhibit apathy towards the problem in the near term. Dimon, widely regarded as one of the most influential executives on Wall Street, remarked during an interview with Fox Business host Maria Bartiromo that pension plans would have to sell after the failure of securities issued by the Treasury Department to finance deficit spending. "It is so potentially dangerous we shouldn't get anywhere near it," he said. "And after all the shenanigans of politics, we are going to have to fix this. I think it's very bad for the nation to get consistently and constantly be looking at this type of thing." The national debt is nearing $31.5 trillion, even as maintenance costs soar due to the present rise in interest rates. An analysis from economists at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School recently found that a 30% decrease in spending or a 40% increase in taxation would be necessary to handle the current deficit spending and future obligations. Republican and Democrat admins alike have overseen surges in debt over the past several decades. Republican lawmakers recently struck a deal with Kevin McCarthy, under which the party's new majority will introduce a budget that refrains from increasing the debt ceiling, an artificial limit on federal obligations imposed by Congress. Dimon said that he understands lawmakers' desire to end the provision, but said that officials have no choice besides deficit spending as expenses for social programs balloon over the next decade. Social Security, Medicare, and other health programs constituted 46% of the federal budget during the last fiscal year, according to data from the Treasury Department. I love how Social Security and Medicare, people keep saying, "Oh, well, I paid into that. That's my money." No, it's not. You paid into it in severely underinflated dollars, especially given a time where twice in our lives, in my life, I've seen 6% plus inflation. Twice in my life. No, you haven't been paying into that all your life. You've been paying a little bit of a tax on there to try to offset some of the costs, but most of that is coming from general taxes and general government spending. So no, that is not your money, as much as they try to tell you. But yes, we are definitely going to have to check with that and make that stop. That's something I've been sounding the alarm on since the Obama admin. And yet nobody wants to listen to any of that because this is hard. But that's what we have coming up our finance. Let's see what's happening in the regular world of news. So I've got a couple here we need to start with. Number one, of course, we do have to offer up our Fs in the chat. Pro-Trump entertainer Diamond of Diamond and Silk dies at 51. From Dennis Romero over at NBC News. Diamond of the pro-Trump entertainers Diamond and Silk has died, the former president, as well as the duo's verified Twitter account, announced Monday night. She was 51. Both women, sisters whose names are Lynette Hardaway and Rochelle Richardson, were born in 71, with Diamond making her debut on Thanksgiving Day, according to their 2020 book Uprising. Calling her death really bad news for Republicans, former President Trump said on his Truth Social platform, "Our beautiful Diamond of Diamond and Silk has just passed away at her home in the state she loved so much, North Carolina." Her cause of death was unknown. Trump said Diamond's death was totally unexpected. The pair's verified Twitter account said the world had just lost a true angel and warrior patriot for freedom, love, and humanity. It asked that any donations be made to a memorial fundraiser page at a crowdfunding website. In late November, the Diamond and Silk Twitter account made a plea for prayers for Diamond. It was not clear exactly why. "Anyone who believes in the power of prayer, please pray for Diamond," it said. The autobiographical Uprising says the sisters grew up poor, but not without class, taste, and an anchor in a parcel of the fertile land of the Deep South, where their father's dad and grandfather were landowning farmers. The two women made a splash during Trump's 2016 campaign for president, supporting him with commentary on their YouTube channel. The duo has said they switched parties after being lifelong Democrats just to support Trump following his 2015 presidential campaign announcement. Trump embraced the two, emphasizing their status as black American women supporting white Republican whose record on inclusion has been criticized as antiquated, if not prejudiced. They attended Trump's inauguration in 2017. In 2018, the sisters spoke before the Senate Committee and the Judiciary and the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation regarding alleged efforts to suppress their Facebook page. Their stand came amid Republican claims of anti-GOP bias at the platform. So they've got a lot of credentials ahead of them already, and it is a little bit of a shame to see that. Not necessarily anything economic or anything like that, but they brought a lot of attention to things that really a lot of the things that I think brought up the idea of the Twitter files. I don't think a lot of that could have happened without Diamond and Silk. I don't think Elon Musk would have even considered buying Twitter if not for the two of them and starting to sound the alarm on the censorship of conservatives. I've never listened to Diamond and Silk, I will say that. I found them to be way too Trumpy for my taste and more entertainer than actual policy makers and policy advocates. But I know a lot of people that did enjoy their content a lot, and I don't begrudge anybody. This is a terrible thing for the sisters to have to endure, and their fans as well. So, an F in the chat for Diamond and Silk. But of course, our friends on the left can't help it. Lefty Twitter dances on Diamond's grave, claims she died of COVID. You cannot script this stuff. From Virginia Cruta over the Daily Wire. As soon as the news broke that Inietha Lynette Hardaway, Diamond of the pro-Trump influencers Diamond and Silk, has passed away suddenly on Monday, liberal critics began claiming that she had died of COVID after speaking out against the vaccines. Diamond had previously been hospitalized in November, and despite rumors suggesting that she had been fighting the pinko pox then, she returned to her show in December to call those reports fake news. Temple University professor Mark Lamont Hill was among those criticizing Diamond and perpetuating the claim that she had died of complications from the pinko pox. Diamond, of the right-wing Trump-loving duo Diamond and Silk, has died. In late November, she was hospitalized due to the pinko pox. The duo was fired from Fox News a couple years ago for spreading misinformation. You cannot script this stuff, he tweeted. Chef and TV host Andrew Zimmern joined as well, adding some of the saddest news each day, reports of pinko pox deniers. Those who thought it a myth dying of the pinko pox, Lynette Hardaway, aka Diamond, from the MAGA Trump supporting duo Diamond and Silk, she died from contracting what she frequently called a hoax. Please stop believing the lies. Lynette Hardaway, aka Diamond, from the MAGA Trump supporting duo Diamond and Silk, yeah, they love using that over and over again. Died from contracting what she called a host, better known as the pinko pox. Irony is palpable, Bishop Talbert Swan tweeted. So, well, never let a good tragedy go to waste, I guess. And you knew they were going to do stuff like that. They really do. There's no class. A lot of people danced on the grave of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but they waited a little while, and a lot more people showed her the reverence and respect that she deserved when she passed away. It only does seem to go one way, the hatred on the people's death. And I got another one here, just in case our friend Quest Fanning is watching. I do want to say that it is now safe in New York City. Well, at least this part of it. It's never really safe in New York City. NYPD gives all clear after pressure cooker found on path causes Oculus station evacuation. From NBC New York staff over at NBC4 New York. The NYPD gave an all clear after its bomb squad investigated a pressure cooker found on the last car of a PATH train from Newark on Tuesday, law enforcement sources said. According to the Port Authority, the report of a suspicious package at the WTC PATH station came in around 2:14 p.m. The train was at the station for more than an hour before it was found, the sources said, with the Port Authority confirming the station, as well as the Oculus, had been evacuated as a precaution. I'm about to go dump out a stream, aren't I? Either I am or my music is. No, it looks like we're still live. Yeah, we're still going right now. That's funny. I lost all of my music here, and I don't know why. Interesting. I guess we'll have to see what happens with that. Huh, the stream ended. That's lame. Hold on, let's see if we can go find some music. Well, I'll probably get a copyright ding for this, but we'll go with the other one. For now, at least. I was like, it got quiet, and that's, by the way, when we dumped out a stream the other night, that was my big indication, was the fact that it went completely dead and quiet in my ears. I'm like, oh, well, maybe we're out of internet, but no, it appears that we are not. That's good. I'm glad it's on their equipment and not mine. Alright, path service was temporarily suspended from Hoboken to the World Trade Center, and number 1 trains were bypassing the World Trade Center in both directions as the investigation was underway. Services have since resumed on the 1 path trains from Newark to the World Trade Center, and Hoboken to the World Trade Center have also resumed, although with delays. So, that's what we see coming off of that. Well, I'm glad everybody's safe, and I'm glad that it wasn't anything major. Let's talk about the documents. I'm going to read a few of these. I'm not going to read all of them. I think we're going to skip around and pick and choose off of these. But I'm going to talk a little bit of this off the cuff as well. But I want to get some of the details that's been released from the mainstream media in the last 24 hours. So, starting with CBS News, U.S. Attorney reviewing documents marked classified from Biden's vice presidency found at Biden think tank. A.G. Garland has assigned the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to review the documents marked classified that were found at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement in Washington. 2 sources with knowledge of the inquiry told CBS News. The roughly 10 documents are from President Biden's vice presidential office at the center. The sources said, CBS News has learned the FBI is also involved in the U.S. Attorney's inquiry. The material was identified by personal attorneys for Mr. Biden on November 2nd before the midterm elections. Richard Sauber, special counsel to the president, confirmed the documents were discovered when Mr. Biden's personal attorneys were packing files housed in the locked closet to prepare to vacate the office space at the Penn Biden Center in D.C., Sauber said in a statement to CBS News. The documents were contained in a folder that was in a box with other unclassified papers, the sources said. The sources revealed neither what the documents contain nor their level of classification. A source familiar with the matter told CBS News the documents did not contain nuclear secrets. And of course they had to go back and put that in there because, of course, we don't know what the nuclear secret is. In fact, we have no idea what's actually in the documents that were found at the Mar-a-Lago. Nobody has any idea what's going on in that, and nobody has any idea what was even mentioned in any of that. For all it could be a document that says, hey, we want to do some nuclear power. Running from Germany and getting it out to the rest of Europe. That could be the nuclear document. Sauber also said the same day the material was discovered, November 2nd, the White House's counsel's office notified the National Archives, which took possession of the materials the following morning. The discovery of these documents was made by the president's attorneys, Sauber said. The documents were not the subject of any previous request or inquiry by the archives. Since that discovery, the president's personal attorneys have cooperated with the archives and the Department of Justice in a process to ensure that any Obama-Biden admin records are appropriately in the possession of the archives. A source familiar with the matter said representatives from the National Archives then notified the Justice Department. Garland assigned U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, John Losh, to find out how the materials marked classified ended up at the Penn Biden Center. The review is considered a preliminary step. The Attorney General will determine whether further investigation is necessary, including potentially appointing a special counsel. Which, by the way, is not going to happen. Alright, let's talk about this for just a moment about what's actually happening here. Now, some things to consider with this. The big one, the major one, is the fact that nothing is going to happen. Unless, of course, Democrats are actually planning on throwing Biden under the bus and pulling Kamala in to be the president. That's the only way something is going to happen at this point. Or force him to resign in another fashion. The Biden admin controls the DOJ. They control Merrick Garland. They control the FBI. So they're in full control of this. My big question here is why now? What is going on that they don't want to see, they don't want you to pay attention to? And we do have quite a bit of material on this. When this happened all the way back in November. Now, I understand why they didn't talk about it on the news on November 2nd. Because the midterms were about to happen, and this could have tanked both the Democrats and the Biden admin coming forward. I understand exactly why they didn't do this on November 2nd, but why now? What's happening at this point? But the majority of this is a distraction. A part of this is to get Republicans on both Twitter and in the House to come out and scream about the fact that we need to go and prosecute Biden, that he did the same thing, that it's exactly like Trump, and we need to either put him in prison or we need to just let Trump go. And I think some of this is going to be split loyalty and split decision. There are going to be a number of Republicans in the House that push to go and have this investigated and try to get Biden put in prison, which is going to put them in the awkward position of also having to say that it's time to go put Trump in prison. There's that side of this. But again, it's a sleight of hand. Magicians have been doing this for centuries. We've got something going on over here while I wave my hand in front of you and show you all the magic that's going on. Meanwhile, my hand over here is moving some documents around in the background and actually making the magic happen, but you can't see any of that. All you can see is what's happening with my hand over here. The sleight of hand. This, interestingly enough, came right at the same time as the border visit. Right at the same time, we're starting to talk about the Rules Committee. And right at the same time, it does look like we're going to be talking about taking down the 87,000 IRS agents. And also, one thing that I do have on the news stack as well has to do with the student loan repayment dilemma that's going on. Because at the same time this is happening, I actually had to go to the Daily Wire to look at this, to get something green checked. A few other places are talking about it. But they're now kicking the can down the road on student loan debt forgiveness instead trying to reduce payments. So there are a few things that are happening in the background that I'm sure that most of the mainstream news doesn't want you to know about. But no, as far as what's going to happen with this is a nothing burger. The Blaze is getting in on it, however. Classified docs found in Biden's office were marked top secret, contained info related to Ukraine, Iran, and the UK, according to a report. From Chris Enlow. Classified documents discovered in President Biden's private office last fall include American intelligence memos and briefing materials related to Ukraine, Iran, and the UK, CNN reported. Sources told CNN the documents were dated to the second term of the Obama admin from 2013 to 2016. Biden's son Hunter conducted business in Ukraine during those years. The sources confirmed the documents were discovered in boxes that also contained unclassified documents. Many of the documents in those boxes fell under the Presidential Records Act and thus should have remained in the possession of the U.S. government. According to CNN, some of the classified documents were marked top secret. Biden was allegedly unaware of the documents were in his private office, and he allegedly doesn't know what information the documents contain. Well, he also doesn't know what he had for breakfast today, so there's that. If Biden did not know they were there, the question then becomes who, having access to highly classified information, stored the documents in Biden's private office without his knowledge? Which means who had access to them, and is this a setup? That actually is a big thing that I have questioning about this. Is this a setup to try to get the conversation? Talking about, but my Trump! And but my classified documents! And are they possibly throwing him under the bus? One thing, however, is clear. Despite the gnashing of teeth over Donald Trump retaining classified documents at the Mar-a-Lago, Democrats are playing a game of whataboutism, stressing the instance of misuse of classified information is not comparable to Trump's because fewer documents were involved. Biden allegedly did not know that they were there, and Biden's attorneys immediately turned over the documents to the National Archives. So, there's a few little details that go along with that. Mike Pence weighing in. From the Hill, Pence's discovery of classified documents from Biden's time as VP is incredibly frustrating. From Lauren Sforza. Mike Pence said on Tuesday that the discovery of classified documents from President Biden's time as vice president compared to the FBI's unprecedented search of former President Trump's private residence proved a double standard. Well, it's just frustrating to me, Pence said on the Hugh Hewitt show, but the original sin here was the massive overreach. The Donald is still under investigation for more than 100 classified documents to his private residence in Mar-a-Lago, which FBI agents executed a search warrant for in August. The search appeared to be the first of its kind, which Pence said was a massive overreach by the FBI. No, and again, I mean, the National Archives knew the documents were there. They were cooperating with Trump at the time. And I do think that this was a full-on take everything and see if you can find something going on with this. Not necessarily, oh yeah, we know that there were documents here. Pence said the search created a standard that the FBI could execute a search warrant at a former president's personal residence. He also said that the Biden admin should appoint the same special counsel for investigation in Biden's papers instead of a U.S. attorney, as they did for Trump. But having now created that standard and now abandoned that standard when the current president of the United States is found to have had classified documents in his possession after leaving office, I have no words right now, Pence said. Well, we'll keep watching this, but there is something else going on. This is a sleight of hand. A couple things on being questioned about it. Let's grab one from CNBC. Biden classified documents. White House won't say why it didn't disclose earlier that the records were found. From Dan Mangan. The White House's counsel's office on Tuesday would not answer why it failed for more than 2 months to publicly disclose that classified government documents had been found in a private office in D.C. that had been used by President Biden before his election in 2020. I am actually less concerned about why they waited 2 months to disclose it. I'm more concerned as to why they disclosed it at all. They can keep quiet on this and the mainstream media will run cover on them. Even if the mainstream media is covering this, there is something else going on with this. There's an ongoing process under review by the DOJ, so we are going to be limited on what we can say at this time. Ian Sams, a spokesman for White House counsel's office, told NBC News when asked why the Biden admin did not disclose earlier the discovery in November of the classified material. But we are committed to doing this the right way, and we will provide further details when and as appropriate, Sams said. Biden, during a meeting with Justin Trudeau, Hitler Trudeau, I should say, at the North American Leaders Summit in Mexico, did not respond to a question from reporters about the documents which were found by personal lawyers. We have video of that, by the way. NBC News later reported Tuesday that the number of classified documents found on November 2nd, at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement numbered fewer than a dozen. Former President Trump suggested Tuesday the DOJ kept quiet about the document's discovery in order to not affect the outcome of November's congressional elections when his fellow Republican candidates underperformed expectations, which is what Grant just said too. Why didn't the Justice Department announce the highly classified documents found in the Biden office before the election? Trump wrote in a post on his social media site, Truth Social. Let's see, what do we got going on from ABC over here? Nothing that we can't get from the Daily Wire, so watch. Biden pressed after classified docs from his vice presidency found at Biden think tank. From Ryan Saavedra. And there it is. President Brandon refused to answer questions Monday about a report on classified material from his time at the as vice president that was allegedly discovered at the Biden think tank. CBS News reported that approximately 10 classified documents from when Biden served as vice president were found at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement in Washington, D.C. Biden was pressed about the matter while meeting with leftist Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, because the Daily Wire also has to put their editorial into this. Bloomberg News reporter Jennifer Jacobs, who is, by the way, a reporter for Ron Helton's favorite magazine From His Favorite Politician, noted on Twitter that Biden did not answer questions about classified material that was found. Video later posted by the RNC showed Biden looking down at his notes while he was asked about the matter. So, let's watch.
Agradecemos a los medios su
The files were discovered. Yeah, this is review of what's going on with this. Let's grab one from Fox. Biden once planned to fire the U.S. attorney who was tapped to investigate classified documents. Yeah, he likes to fire people who make life difficult for him and his family, doesn't he? From Ron Blitzer. U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, John Losh, will be leading the investigation of classified documents found at the University of Pennsylvania's Penn Biden Center nearly 2 years after President Biden nearly fired him. Losh has been in office since 2017 when he was appointed by then-President Trump. When Biden took office in early 2021, it was reported that the president had plans to fire him, even though the Senate had confirmed him unanimously. The news of the planned termination drew criticism from both parties as Democrats, Illinois Senators Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth expressed their dismay. While we agree with the Biden admin's criminal justice agenda, we are disappointed with the decision to terminate U.S. Attorney Losh without consulting us, the two senators from Losh's home state said in a joint statement. In 2017, our nonpartisan screening committee gave us support for Mr. Losh to serve in the position, and the Senate confirmed him unanimously. Durbin and Duckworth added that there was precedent for individuals in Losh's position to stay in office after a new admin took over to conclude sensitive investigations. They urged Biden to at least let Losh stay on until a replacement was confirmed. And, I mean, there's really nothing untoward about the fact that Losh almost got fired over this, mostly because when Biden took office, as far as we know, nobody knew that there were going to be documents discovered at the Penn Biden Center, number one, and number two, and this is the more important part of this, they had no idea who Merrick Garland or whoever the AG would have happened to be, because I don't think Garland had been confirmed yet at the time, who would be the attorney that's investigating it. It's just a big coincidence that this is the same one that Biden tried to can as soon as he got into office. From the Associated Press. I'm going to skip this one. This is editorializing and op-eds and, oh, evil orange man is bad and Biden is good, so it's only a crime if a Republican does it. We're not going to waste our time on this one. Next one, from the New York Post. Kevin McCarthy confirms House panel boot for Schiff, Swalwell, and Omar. Based from Mark Moore. House Speaker McCarthy confirmed late Monday that he will make good on a pre-midterm pledge to remove 3 high-profile Democrats, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, and Ilhan Omar, from their House committees. McCarthy told the Associated Press that he would move to strip the trio of their assignments, following through on a vow of payback for Democrats ousting Reps Paul Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene from their panels during the last Congress. Yes, I will come out and say right off the bat that I don't agree with this, except for the fact that the Democrats opened the door for it. I do think the caucus should be the ones who are deciding which one of their people goes onto their committees. And then they should have to deal with the consequences of that. In the case with Swalwell being a Chinese spy and Ilhan Omar being a raging anti-Semite. Yes, they absolutely should have to deal with the consequences of that. And have to put these people out in front and say, hey, look at these people who are behaving this way. But the precedent is there. The party in power now has the say in who goes on to what committees. Not the party that these people are from. Schiff and Swalwell, both from California, would be removed from the House Intelligence Committee, while Minnesota's Omar would be kicked off the House Foreign Affairs Committee. McCarthy vowed almost exactly a year ago that he would remove 3 Democrats if Republicans won back the House in the 2022 midterm elections, and repeated that promise last November after his prediction was realized. The Democrats have created a new thing where they're picking and choosing who could be on the committee, McCarthy said last January. Never in the history of Congress have you had the majority tell the minority who could be on a committee. But this new standard, which these Democrats have voted for, if Swalwell cannot get a security clearance in the private sector, there's no reason why he should be given one on the to be on the Intel or Homeland Security. McCarthy has said that fears that Swalwell may be compromised after reports emerged in 2020 that a suspected Chinese spy infiltrated his campaign and got close to the congressman. Eric Swalwell cannot get a security clearance in the public sector. Why would we ever give him a security clearance to the secrets of America? So, I will not allow him to be on Intel, McCarthy told Fox News in November. You have Adam Schiff, who has lied to the American public time and time again. We will not allow him to be on the Intel committee either. Schiff drew Republicans' ire after he headed up the first impeachment of former President Trump and was a member of the House Select Committee that examined Trump's role in the January 6th selfie fest. McCarthy has said he would boot Omar, a member of the Progressive Squad, along with Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez from the Foreign Affairs Committee because of her anti-Semitic remarks. Well, good. I like that. That's good to see. More of this coming. From Insider, House Democrats brace for Speaker McCarthy to block their committee assignments in retaliatory strike. From Warren Rojas and Nicole Guadiano. As Speaker McCarthy prepares to make good... Do we have video? No, we don't have video. Prepares to make good on promises to punish 3 House Democrat lawmakers by stripping them of their committee assignments in the nascent 118th Congress, questions remain about how far the political retribution will go. McCarthy promised a year ago that Adam Schiff of California, Eric Swalwell of California, and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota would pay the price for House Democratic leaders plucking the conservative firebrands Green and Gosar from their respective panels in the last session. McCarthy on Monday told the Associated Press that penalizing the Democratic trio was the top of his to-do list this year, arguing that Schiff has lied to the American public. Farnoosh Amiri says McCarthy confirms that Swalwell, Schiff, and Omar will be off committees they'd previously served Intel Foreign Affairs. While he said he'd leave committee assignment decisions to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Swalwell told Insider that McCarthy's not that hard to figure out. If I was an NFL coach and I could take the best players off the field, on the opposition, I guess I would try to do that too, Swalwell said, just off the House floor, touting McCarthy's purely vengeful move almost as a badge of honor. House Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar declined to speculate on the next steps should McCarthy follow through on his plan to remove Schiff and Swalwell from the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. We will send the names of the individuals who this caucus supports and are qualified to serve on committees. What the Speaker does beyond that is something that we will handle, but it isn't anything that we're going to get into today, Aguilar told congressional reporters during a Capitol Hill press conference. So, and I think one of the things that I do like about this is, while the thing with Green did seem to be sour grapes, and Gosar definitely was sour grapes, I think that the decision to remove both of them from their committee assignments was too far given what happened to them. There actually is good reason behind the removal of these 3. Schiff, maybe, and to be an extent, maybe a little bit too far. But Omar is on the Foreign Affairs Committee, which does regulate how we interact with Israel, meanwhile saying openly how much she hates Israel. And Swalwell screwed a Chinese spy. Plain and simple. I would call that a very good reason to move both of them from their committee assignments. Schiff is a stretch. Schiff is definitely a stretch because all it is lying to the American people. And as we've discussed, in the wake of the Santos controversy, that is nothing new from a politician. They all lie. You know how you know a politician is lying? His lips are moving. But, you know, if you're if that's the door you want to open, then congratulations. On the Republican side, Dan Crenshaw denied Homeland Security Committee chair after calling House Republicans critical of McCarthy terrorists. I like this a lot. You know why I like this? The talk was, at the time, that McCarthy would be the one who was stripping people of committee assignments. That was who was making the threat. In the midst of everything going on with the McCarthy vote. But that really was independent voices from inside the caucus and had nothing to do with McCarthy himself. And the person who was being the loudest about this and having the biggest platform about this is now losing his committee assignments. I like this a lot. This is a good thing. I am very much enjoying this. From Joseph McKinnon. Texas Rep. Dan Crenshaw was denied the gavel on a key committee he had hoped to lead. The Homeland Security Committee will instead be led by a member of the House Republican group Crenshaw branded as enemies. That's even better. Crenshaw rebuked Republican members of the House Freedom Caucus last week, rhetorically condemning them as enemies for having leveraged their House Speaker votes in exchange for concessions over how Congress will be run. He told Fox News radio host Guy Benson, "We cannot let the terrorists win," referring to the 20 members of the Freedom Caucus, who initially resisted voting for Kevin McCarthy. Crenshaw told Benson that the terrorists wanted more places on committees. Let's listen.
Get another scalp and another scalp, whether it's Boehner or Paul Ryan or then McCarthy. Scalise would just be next, and we all know it. We just can't allow that to happen. That's why those of us are saying, like, look, you pushed us into this corner, so now we're saying we won't vote for anyone but McCarthy. That's why we're saying it, because we cannot let the terrorists win. That's basically what's happening.
And it's the same crap argument that we got after 9/11 that put a lot of us into the spiral of debt spending and a lot of the problems that we have from that out into the open. You remember that campaign, right? In 2001? Hell, I was 17 and I remember that. Go out and buy yourself a brand new car that you can't afford and a bunch of jewelry and maybe go buy a house you can't afford because otherwise the terrorists win. With McCarthy winning the speakership on the 15th vote on Friday night, Crenshaw's remarks appear to have amounted to unforced error. Yeah, we'll call that just an error. That's what we'll call that. The Blaze previously reported that Tucker Carlson called out the Texas congressman on his Fox News show, accusing Crenshaw of engaging in Soviet-style politics. Crenshaw apologized on Sunday, telling CNN anchor Jake Tapper on State of the Union that things got heated and things got said. I don't want them to think I actually believe they're terrorists. It's clearly a turn of phrase that you use in what is an intransigent negotiation. No. You were using specific targeted language because you knew that it would try to turn the American people against those who are in part of the caucus that you don't like because they're anti-war and you are the most pro-war member of Congress there is currently. And that's saying something. To try to get the American sentiment back on the 9/11 and McCarthy-style politics. I wonder if there's video of him on Jake Tapper. Let's check this out. Nope. No video of it. Not really available. On Monday, Crenshaw was denied the gavel for which he campaigned over the course of several months. The Houston Chronicle reported in November that Crenshaw was regarded as frontrunner for the top spot on the Homeland Security Committee He certainly thought so. I'm uniquely positioned to lead the Homeland Security Committee, Crenshaw said in a letter to his Republican colleagues, noting that having lived in a border state and served in the military provided him with the requisite experience and insights to persuasively communicate our positions with the public. Crenshaw may have also won some favor after raising nearly $1 million for the House GOP campaign arm in the latest cycle. Despite the Texas congressman's bona fides and contributions, the chair will instead go to fellow combat veteran Mark Green, a 58-year-old member of the Freedom Caucus, the group that bore the brunt of Crenshaw's turn of phrase. And yes, by the way, Mark Green was one of the people who did vote against McCarthy for most of the time that we were going on with that. Politico previously reported the political significance of Green's appointment, stating Green is also an interesting candidate because picking him would give McCarthy the opportunity to say that he seated another HFC member in a senior leadership position following only HFC Rep. Jim Jordan. So I think that was a little bit of a slap in the face too. Like, hey, you're going to come back and do this? Well, I'm going to give your position to somebody that you hate at this point. I am warming up a little bit to Kevin McCarthy. He has not sold me yet, but I'm warming up just a little bit to him. Just a little bit. Grant, by your commentary, you must be way back. You must maybe watching at double speed. From the Hill, House GOP passes repeal of IRS funding boost as its first bill in the majority. Based, but unfortunately has nowhere to go because the Senate's going to block it. From Emily Brooks and Michael Schnell. House Republicans fulfilled a key campaign promise on Monday, passing legislation to rescind the bulk of an IRS funding boost, signed into law last year, marking the first bill passed by the GOP-controlled House this Congress. The bill, which is unlikely to see action in the Democrat-controlled Senate, passed in a party-line vote 221 to 210 on Monday evening. Speaker McCarthy announced that the first bill of a GOP-controlled House would be to repeal the new IRS funding in September when House Republicans released their Commitment to America midterm policy and messaging platform ahead of the election. A boost of about $80 billion in IRS funding over a decade, generally aimed at upping high-income enforcement, which is, again, a load of crap. Was included in last year's Inflation Reduction Act, Democrats' sweeping tax, health, and climate bill. The Republican bill, formerly titled the Family and Small Business Taxpayer Protection Act, is barely longer than a page. Also based, by the way, it directs any unobligated balances of amounts appropriated or otherwise made available to the IRS from the Inflation Reduction Act to be rescinded. The CBO estimated Monday that the legislation would eliminate about $71 billion of the total $80 billion that was allocated for the IRS, but would reduce tax revenue by $186 billion. That's a bunch of crap, translating to about a $114 billion increase in deficits over the next decade. And by the way, that is because these new audits are coming after you. And not just the poor, but the political dissidents, the people who are listening to somebody speak out against the government. So that's pretty based. This one, I don't know if this is necessarily true or not, but if true, also based. House Republicans to vote on bill abolishing the IRS, eliminating income tax. From Houston Keene, Republicans of the House of Representatives will vote on a bill that would abolish the Internal Revenue Service, eliminate the national income tax, and replace it with a national consumption tax. Fox News Digital has learned the House will be voting on a Georgia Republican Rep. Buddy Carter's reintroduced Fair Tax Act that aims to reel in the IRS and remove the national income tax as well as other taxes and replace them with a single consumption tax. The vote on the bill was made as part of the deal between Kevin McCarthy and members of the House Freedom Caucus and was pushed forward in his quest for the gavel last week. Co-sponsoring this Georgia-made legislation was my first act as a member of Congress and is fittingly the first bill I'm introducing in the 118th Congress, Carter said in a press release obtained exclusively by Fox News Digital. Instead of adding 87,000 new agents to weaponize the IRS against small businesses and middle America, this bill will eliminate the need for the department entirely by simplifying the tax code with provisions that work for the American people and encourage growth and innovation, Carter continued. Armed, unelected bureaucrats should not have more power over your paycheck than you do, he added. As a former small business owner, I understand the unnecessary burden of our failing income tax system has on Americans, said Jeff Duncan of South Carolina in a statement. The Fair Tax Act eliminates the tax code, replaces the income tax with a sales tax, and abolishes the abusive IRS. If enacted, this will invigorate the American taxpayer and help more Americans achieve the American dream. Well, taxation is still also theft, so we should eliminate it all, and most of the government with it, but, this is a step in the right direction. At least. Again, not going to go anywhere. 51-seat Dem Senate, not going to go anywhere. But a man can dream. From ABC, another one that's not going to go anywhere. Articles of impeachment introduced against the DHS Secretary Mayorkas by Texas Republican. From Lauren Peller and Luke Barr. House Republicans are wasting no time in their pledge to again try to bring articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Alejandro. Over Mayorkas' handling of immigration and the border. Pat Fallon of Texas initially filed a resolution on January 3rd, the first day of the new Congress, to impeach Mayorkas. Fallon then reintroduced the resolution late Monday once the new chamber rules were adopted. Republican leadership has not yet commented on whether they'll take any further action on the resolution. Introducing the articles is the last step of what can be a lengthy process. First step, of what could be a lengthy process, including an investigation by the House Judiciary Committee, and does not mean Mayorkas will ultimately be impeached or formally accused by the House. If he were impeached, he would then be tried by the Senate. I'd be interested to see if this comes up for a vote. Obviously, of course, the trial is just going to be gavel in, gavel out. They're not going to have the trial. It's going to be a thing where it's like, okay, we found nothing wrong. Bring it down to a vote. It's done. But it's interesting to see. Matt Gaetz coming in on this one here, on one that I got from the Real Off Hours server. Matt Gaetz wants to bring C-SPAN cameras back on the House floor. From Dan Shayton. After offering the public unvarnished views of dramatic scenes during the House Speaker vote last week, C-SPAN could regain control of cameras in the House chamber thanks to a new amendment being offered by a Republican lawmaker. Matt Gaetz is bringing forward an amendment that would require the House Speaker to allow 4 cameras owned and operated by C-SPAN to broadcast and record proceedings on the chamber floor, according to Fox News. I've received a lot of feedback from constituents about how interesting it is and how you're able to see in real time how our government is functioning, or dysfunctioning, if you will, what alliances are being created, what discussions are being had, and what animated moments drive the action, Gaetz told the news outlet. And the pool view of the Congress is antiquated and a little boomer-fied. Wow. And, of course, the recount showing the heated exchange there. The Republican-led House elected McCarthy as Speaker in the 15th ballot just after midnight on Saturday. During the days-long process, C-SPAN garnered positive views for how its operators captured some of the most dynamic moments in the House chamber during negotiations and voting with its wide array of camera angles In one particularly kinetic moment, Friday night, cameras caught Mike Rogers being pulled away by a colleague to stop a confrontation with Gates. That, by the way, otherwise would have gone completely unreported. Along with the rest of this here, this would all have been done behind closed doors. Let's watch this one. So yeah, and I mean, as we remember what happened with that, and I didn't see any of the bad lip reading videos of Congress, but I would like to see some of the cameras up there so we can see some of that. All right. Something I actually agree with Trump on, which doesn't happen very often. From the Blaze, primary them all. Trump calls for McConnell and GOP senators who vote with him to face primary challengers. Yes, of course, I am in favor of reducing many of the requirements to be a congressperson so that we can just see more primary challengers in general. Something I've been on my soapbox for quite a while. From Alex Nitzberg. Former President Trump is calling for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky and other GOP senators who vote with him to face primary challengers. McCarthy secured the House speakership last week after a days-long process that included more than a dozen votes before McCarthy, who had been backed by Trump, finally won on the 15th round of voting. Great job, Kevin. We must now stop Mitch McConnell and his China flagrant boss, Coco Chow. Trump posted on Monday on Truth Social in a derogatory reference to McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, who served as Secretary of Transportation during most of Trump's White House tenure, but resigned on the heels of the Capitol Selfie Fest. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Massey being the other senator either, by the way, but then we lose a freedom-loving person in the Senate. And yes, I mean, of course I want to see McConnell primaried out, but I want to see everybody primaried, every time. So the good ideas come to the top and the bad ideas sink to the bottom. But we'll see. Some interesting news coming out of Nebraska. Ben Sasse officially resigns from the Senate to become University of Florida president. And given the fact that this is after the 118th is seated, means that the role of filling his seat now falls to the governor of Nebraska. Republican Senator Ben Sasse has officially resigned from the Senate as he heads to his new role as president of the University of Florida. Nebraska's Republican Governor Jim Pillen will appoint someone to fill Sasse's vacant seat. Sasse is leaving the Senate with just 2 years into his second term after the University of Florida Board of Trustees voted unanimously in November to appoint him president. Sasse has a complicated relationship with Republicans both nationally and in Nebraska after his outspoken criticism of former President Trump. He was one of 7 Republican senators to vote to convict the former president of incitement of Selfie Fest in his second impeachment trial stemming from the January 6th 2021 Selfie Fest on the Capitol. In his farewell speech, Sass was critical of the Senate, saying the body was becoming increasingly irrelevant because senators caved to social media mobs, advocacy organizations, and small-dollar donors and cable hosts. Well, I mean, you should be beholden to small-dollar donors.
Mr. President, I rise to speak.
Yeah, it's a 30-minute one. We're not going to watch the whole. We're not going to watch 30 minutes of Ben Sass talking out of his ass. What is it that Hannity used to call him? Ben Sass the ass. And I say this with the utmost of what I'm going to get back out of this, and we haven't used this for a while either, by the way. What do we get to say to Ben Sass? It's been a while since I got to use that one. On the other side of it, Katie Porter has announced that she is going to try to run against Dianne Feinstein. Katie Porter announces 2024 Senate bid from Aaron Doherty. Katie Porter announced Tuesday that she is running for Senate in 2024. Dianne Feinstein, 89, has not said if she's running for re-election, but Porter will put significant pressure on California's senior senator to decide. Both of California's sitting senators have not publicly said if they plan to leave their seats, but it's widely speculated that Feinstein will not seek another term. Feinstein in 2021 filed initial paperwork to run for re-election, but it was more of a formality rather than an official announcement per San Francisco Gate. In order to keep the account active, the senator has to maintain current filings with the FEC. Tom Menser, communications director for Feinstein, told San Francisco Gate. California's other sitting senator, Alex Padilla, won election to the Senate during his 2022 midterm elections, becoming the first Latino elected to represent the state in the Senate after being appointed to fill the vacancy left by now Vice President Kamala Harris. Porter beat a Republican challenger during the 2022 midterm elections to secure a third term in Congress. I've spent my career, both before and after being elected to the House, taking on special interests and delivering for working people, and I'm running for the Senate because Californians deserve a warrior fighting for them in Washington, Porter wrote in an email to her supporters. California needs a warrior in the Senate to stand up to special interests, fight the dangerous imbalances in our economy, and hold so-called leaders like Mitch McConnell accountable for rigging our democracy, she said on Twitter. Because, I mean, if you accuse a Republican of that, you don't get banned on social media. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if she's got it in her to become the senator. But I also know that, I mean, if she's just going against Feinstein, that's not really going to be an uphill battle either. But do also remember that this is California, which means jungle primary. A little bit of sour grapes coming off of this one. Lawyers for Dr. Dre tell Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene to stop using his music. From Diana Dasrath. Lawyers for rap legend Dr. Dre are demanding that Republican Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene stop using his music after the controversial politician used the hit Still DRE. I don't license my music to politicians. I bet you if Biden wanted to use it, you'd be jumping over yourself to license it to him. Especially someone as divisive and hateful as this one. Dre, who was born Andre Young, said in a statement. Greene, who represents her district in Northeast Georgia, has promoted the far-right QAnon and national event. In December, she said she would have won the J6 Capitol attack if she'd planned to use it, but The letter from Dre's attorney, Howard King, dated Monday, demands that Green immediately cease and desist from using Dre's music. The letter says she's been using it on social media. One might expect that as a member of Congress you would have passing familiarity with the laws of our country. It's possible, though, that laws governing intellectual property are a little too arcane and insufficiently populous for you to really have spent much time on. The letter reads, "We're writing because we think an actual lawmaker should be making laws, not breaking laws, especially those embodied in the Constitution by the Founding Fathers." Music publication Rolling Stone reported that the recognizable Still DRE beat was used in a video posted to Twitter, which appears to have since been removed. Yeah, what do you want to bet that they went back out and tattled and Dre would have had absolutely no idea prior to this? Some news on the Russia front from the Daily Wire. U.S. sending Zelensky more offensive weapons. Create an iron fist to penetrate Russian linear defense. From Zach Jewell. The U.S. has made a substantive change in its aid to Ukraine, sending more offensive weapons to President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is seeking to capitalize on Russia's apparent setbacks in recent months. Two U.S. officials told CNN that the change in weaponry sent to the European country reflects what Ukraine sees as an opportunity to regain territory. Territory that voted to leave your country. The new batch of munitions and vehicles, courtesy of the US and Germany, gives Ukraine much more capability, one official said. And also, by the way, lines the pockets of politicians who are owned by Lockheed Martin. The Biden admin hinted at a change in what kind of weapons would be provided to Ukraine when it announced on Friday that Zelensky's forces will receive 50 Bradley fighting vehicles. Along with long-range rocket systems, the admin's announcement came less than a month after Zelensky visited the White House and begged Congress for more aid. We are positioning Ukraine to be able to move forward and retake territory, Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary Laura Cooper said last week, following the announcement for the aid package to Ukraine. No, we're positioning Ukraine to sit and fight this forever, because this is actually making us a bunch of profits and support among Democrats we've brainwashed to believe that Ukraine is a democracy. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, a retired commander of the U.S. Army Europe and NATO Allied Land Command, told CNN how the new U.S. package gives Ukraine a more offensive set of weapons in its arsenal. But this was supposed to all be about defense, remember? We're not doing an offensive war. What I would imagine Ukrainians will do is take these 50 Bradleys and put most of them in one battalion or one armored brigade. No, they're probably going to sell them on the black market and create an iron fist that would be used to penetrate Russian linear defenses, Hodges said. The U.S. officials emphasized that Biden admin remains focused on providing the Ukrainians with weapons and aid to help Ukraine follow the battle strategies it's developing on its own. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the weapons and vehicles included in the latest aid package will help the Ukrainians shift to warfare on the open farmlands in the Donbass region, an eastern section of Ukraine annexed by Russian President Vladimir Putin last September. Bloomberg reported, again, another citation from Ron Helton's favorite publication by his favorite politician. Alright, let's not do that before we get copyright popped. But you know where we're going with that. From the New York Post, Biden admin weighs nationwide ban on gas stoves, according to a report from Mark Moore. Millions of Americans may soon be entering not stove season. The Biden admin is considering a nationwide ban on gas stoves, citing the harmful pollutants released by the appliances, according to a report. Are you stupid? One of the cleanest burning fuels on the face of the planet. Something that burns so clean, you can run a forklift indoors. Are you stupid? Oh my God. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is mulling the action after a recent study showed emissions from the devices can cause health and respiratory problems, Bloomberg reported on Monday. This is a hidden hazard, CPSC Commissioner Richard Trumka Jr. told the outlet. Any option is on the table. Products that can't be made safe can be banned. Reports by groups including the American Chemical Society and New York University Law School's Institute for Policy Integrity found gas stoves, which are used in about 40% of U.S. homes, while the remainder use various forms of electric cookers, emit pollutants like nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and fine matter at levels deemed unsafe by the EPA and World Health Organization. Of course, the World Health Organization had to get involved in this. The studies also linked gas stoves to respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular problems, cancer, and other health conditions. This is it. I mean, this is a government that's out of control at this point. You want to make criminals out of 40% of the nation. I don't have a gas stove, but if I did, and the government came and said, your gas stove is banned, I would tell them to get bent. And yes, the next thing that they're coming for is gas grills and probably charcoal grills after that. I can't believe this is even on the table right now. This is just beyond stupidity. And I'm sure there is some little millennial out there, my ex-fiance was a great example of this, who looks at the gas stove, which the place that her and I lived in together had a gas stove, and looked at it. I mean, I remember when we moved into this, and she outright told me that she was afraid of gas stoves. Because there's an open flame, what could happen there? But no, you're not getting carbon monoxide off your gas stove. Short of barring the manufacture or importation of gas stoves, the CPSC could also impose emission standards, Trumka said. You know who's behind this? Cory Booker and Don Beyer of Virginia sent a letter to the agency in December urging it to take action against the appliances, saying they're a cumulative burden on minority and low-income households. This is a real thing, folks. Alright, this is what I think that we're trying to distract from by doing the documents thing. Biden admin unveils student loan payment reduction proposal as debt cancellation stalls in court. And the reason I think that that's the case is because the Daily Wire is the only one that's reporting on this. From Dylan Burrows. The Biden admin is proposing a plan that would lower federal student loan repayments for millions of Americans, including a pause on student loan payments for those making under $30,600 per year. The proposed changes would be based on income, with a pause in student loan payments increasing from the current $24,000 to the new level. Other borrowers could receive lower payment amount each month, with undergraduate borrowers above a threshold paying no more than 5% of income instead of the current 10%. Both undergrad and graduate debt borrowers would pay between 5 and 10% of their income based on a weighted average of their balances. Today we're making a new promise to today's borrowers, and for generations to come, your student loan payments will be affordable. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona told reporters on Monday evening, according to CNN, "You won't be buried under an avalanche of student interest, and you won't be saddled with a lifetime of debt." Well, no, you'll just be paying it off for a lifetime. Roughly 8 million people are currently enrolled on income-based student loan repayment plans, CNN reported. The plans extend repayment periods from 10 to up to 25 years with a promise to forgive the remaining balance at the end of the period. Borrowers must enroll and submit annual information about income and family size to determine the monthly payments and remain eligible. Many borrowers have complained that the monthly loan payment amounts are unbearable, especially during the Pinko-Pox pandemic. The new plan would also expand the income amount that applies to families. A borrower in a family of four making less than $62,400 a year would not be required to make monthly payments on their loans under the new proposal. A borrower in a family of four making less than $62,400 a year wasted his time going to college. I make almost that much by myself, just so you know. I guess maybe not almost that much, but closer to that tier than anybody else would realize. I don't want to say the amount that I make, but I'm pretty damn close to that by myself. And I'm considered to not have a good job. I'm considered to have a mediocre job, and I make almost that by myself. If you have a bachelor's in your household and that's all your household is, then you need to go back to your university and tell them you want your damn money back. Holy crap. The proposal could also decrease the number of years necessary to receive student loan forgiveness. Instead of 20 or 25 years, a borrower could receive forgiveness after just 10 years if they borrow $12,000 or less, the Washington Post noted. $1,200 a year, because it's only if it's $12,000 or less. $1,200 a year. Again, if you have a bachelor's and you are making under $1,200 or can't afford $1,200 a year, you've got bigger problems. But really, honestly, this is the Biden admin saying that they did something, and it's going to be all the Republicans allowed us to do. I guarantee you that's going to be the message that came off of this. Meanwhile, the documents are distracting from the fact that, all of the constituents who were promised student loan forgiveness should be outraged about this. All right, let's talk border. We've got some time now, so let's talk about what happened on the border over the weekend. From Politico, Biden tours El Paso border sites. From Olivia Olander, President Biden on Sunday toured the busiest port in El Paso, Texas. Bet she didn't go to Donna. Met Border Patrol agents, who were carefully selected to make sure that they weren't people who hated the Biden admin for making their jobs unbearably difficult, and spoke with workers at a federally funded migrant services center, which was cleaned up, made nice, and they kicked a bunch of people out in his first visit to the southern border after becoming president. Hey, they need a lot of resources, man, Biden said when asked by reporters on Sunday afternoon what he had learned from the trip. We're going to get it for them. Biden was greeted by the state's Republican governor, Abbott, who has sparred with the admin over immigration policy shortly after landing in El Paso. The president caused the chaos at the border, needed to be here. It just so happens he's 2 years and about $20 billion too late, Abbott said to reporters. Abbott handed Biden a letter with Republicans' proposals for immigration policy, in which he labeled the visit a photo op, which it was. Biden, speaking to reporters later on Sunday, said he hadn't read it yet, and he's not going to. That got burned. The governor, for his part, has also faced accusations of using migrants as pawns for facilitating drop-offs of thousands from the border to northern cities. Border Patrol officers in El Paso showed Biden methods used for detecting smuggled goods, and he also saw a physical border wall separating the city from Juarez, according to reporters on site. Biden planned to meet with local business leaders, White House Press Secretary Token Diversity Hire said on earlier Sunday. Asked specifically by reporters, Diversity Hire did not say whether Biden would speak to immigrants on the trip. Fact check, he didn't. So he has officially been there. It's happened. Let's see what the Politico video does, because hey, it worked the last time we did it. Aww, that's lame. It is going to glitch out on us. But we've got more to talk about with this. From CNN, which it's interesting that CNN is the one saying this. Biden confronts a major political liability as he seeks assistance on immigration. From MJ Lee, Priscilla Alvarez, and Kevin Liptak. President Biden rode high into the new year. His political party had far exceeded expectations in the midterms. Following a string of legislative victories, inflation appeared to finally be moderating, which is false, and the first days of 2023 exposed what the president himself called embarrassing drama and infighting within the ranks of the Republican Party. Yeah, I'm sure that you are very, very eager to come out and say that, even though it's a lie. But Biden's first work trip abroad this year, a 2-night visit in Mexico City following a brief stop at the border town of El Paso, but not Donna, on Sunday afternoon, is forcing the president to confront a political problem with no easy fix or quick solution. No, he's taking the right-wing media's ability to say he's never been to the border away from them. A record-breaking surge of migrant crossings at the southern U.S. border under his watch. Both stops underscore Biden's predicament. While he's being blamed for record migrant surges, it's a problem he cannot solve by himself. He will look to Congress and U.S. neighbors in the region, namely Mexico, to step up as well. The visit to El Paso on Sunday, hastily confirmed by the White House, days after the details of the Mexico City trip was announced, took Biden to a city that perhaps more than any other, except Donna, has come to symbolize ground zero of immigration conundrum confronting his admin. Images of asylum seekers flocking to the border city and stories of strained resources have haunted the Biden White House, all while the GOP calls for the president to visit the area to see the problem with his own eyes grow louder. No, I want him to go to the Donna facility. I don't care about El Paso. They chose El Paso because it's a relatively clean border crossing. The White House resisted those calls for months, but advisors recognized the issue was becoming a growing political liability and that there was a risk for that the lack of the presidential visit could take a bigger life of its own. No, he didn't confront a liability. He went out and said, "Hey, look, man, I've been to the border. You can't say crap about it now, man. Look, fat, come on." Let's move on to the Daily Wire. Texas Governor Greg Abbott blasts Biden's border visit, from Dylan Burrows, which we can listen to here. Abbott shared the words, claiming the president has no plans to enforce immigration laws, with Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo. Let's listen. This one will play. I know this one will play, because I watched this one already.
We have very simple solutions the Biden administration could apply to do something about this if they wanted to, but they really don't care. about stopping illegal immigration. Biden is there today to look at a sanitized El Paso so that he can do all he can to help and aid the illegal immigrants as opposed to stopping them from coming into our country.
Yeah, and that's, brief part of it here. Abbott's criticisms also come after authorities in El Paso removed migrant encampments ahead of the president's planned visit. Cleanup occurred at the city's downtown bus station at the shelter near Sacred Heart Church, according to a report by the New York Post. But again, they can't send him to the Donna facility, the one that was under so much scrutiny under the Trump admin and was also under scrutiny in 2021 at the beginning of the Biden admin, but was quickly forgotten about when we started screaming about January the 6th. The El Paso Times gives us an idea of what was in the letter. El Paso Times reports Greg Abbott offers handshake direct letter on border policies to Joe Biden during El Paso visit. From John C. Moritz. Greg Abbott greeted President Biden at the base of Air Force One in El Paso on Sunday and presented him with a scathing letter condemning the president's approach to immigration and border security. The brief, but what appeared to be a cordial exchange between Biden and Abbott, was picked up by a television news camera, but the remarks were not. Biden appeared to read the letter before folding it and offering the governor a final handshake, before moving on to greet others who turned out to meet him during his short stay in El Paso. And here is the letter. It's one page, so let's look at it. Via hand delivery, January 8th, 2023. The Honorable Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., President of the United States. Dear President Biden, your visit to our southern border with Mexico today is $20 billion too little and 2 years too late. Moreover, your visit avoids the sites where mass illegal immigration occurs and sidesteps the thousands of angry Texas property owners whose lives have been destroyed by your border policies. Even the city you visit has been sanitized of the migrant camps which had overrun downtown El Paso, because your admin wants to shield you from the chaos that Texans experience on a daily basis. This chaos is the direct result of your failure to enforce the immigration laws that Congress has enacted. Under President Trump, the federal government achieved historically low levels of illegal immigration under your watch. By contrast, America is suffering the worst illegal immigration in the history of our country. Your open border policies have emboldened the cartels, who grow wealthy by trafficking deadly fentanyl and even human beings. Texans are paying an especially high price for your failure, sometimes with their very lives, as local leaders from your own party will tell you if given the chance. All of this is happening because you have violated your constitutional obligation to defend the states against invasion through faithful execution of federal laws. Halfway through your presidency, though, I can finally welcome you to the border. When you finish the photo ops in a carefully staged, managed version of El Paso, you have a job to do. You must comply with the many states mandating that various categories of aliens shall be detained and end the practice of unlawfully paroling aliens en masse. You must stop sandbagging the implementation of the Remain in Mexico policy and Title 42 expulsions and fully enforce those measures as federal courts have ordered you to do. You must aggressively prosecute illegal entry between ports of entry and allow ICE to remove illegal immigrants in accordance with existing federal laws. You must immediately resume construction of the border wall in the state of Texas using the billions of dollars Congress has appropriated for that purpose. You must designate the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. On behalf of all Americans, I implore you, secure our border by enforcing Congress's immigration laws. Sincerely, Greg Abbott. Yeah, you're right. Abbott should have stood up to Biden. He should have. All right. So that's what happened there. You know what? I want to talk about this one here just because it does appear that there is Even The Hill reporting on this too. Both of these detrimental to the Biden admin, but I want to look at CNN especially. This is an analysis, which is an op-ed by Zachary Wolf, but it says, don't try to make sense of Biden's border policy. President Biden's immigration policy is confusing and full of contradictions. Make some sense of these developments. Biden made his first visit to the border as president on Sunday, but failed to see any migrants. That's because El Paso cleaned them all up. Is expanding former President Trump's border policy known as Title 42, even though Biden says he doesn't like it. Asked the courts to end that Trump-era policy, but seemingly had no workable plan for when they nearly did. Has traveled to Mexico City for a summit with North American leaders, but his White House is making very clear they aren't anticipating any progress on the border crisis. Watches on as Greg Abbott in particularly freelances his own border security with increasingly elaborate stunts to argue the border is too porous. The latest involves adding a wall of shipping containers to the border at El Paso. How did Biden visit an aid center at the border during an admitted crisis and fail to encounter any actual migrants? There just weren't any at the center when he arrived, a senior admin official said in Priscilla Alvarez and MJ Lee's report to CNN. Completely coincidental, they haven't had any today. Granted, border crossings have dropped in the new year, but Alvarez and Lee point to on-the-ground reporting from CNN's Rosa Flores that hundreds of migrants, including children, were living on the street after crossing into the U.S. in El Paso, and nearly 1,000 additional migrants were in federal custody in detention facilities in El Paso on Sunday, according to the City of El Paso's Migrant Dashboard. So, yeah, I'm actually seeing CNN be critical, but also The Hill. Biden's Mexico visit, a change in strategy or more of the same? This is an op-ed again from The Hill, who regularly editorializes things to come out and say, the evil Donald Trump and the evil this and the evil that. President Biden has a unique opportunity to reverse his admin's legacy of a border security failure during the upcoming North American Leaders Summit in Mexico City. The U.S. and Mexico have a shared interest in each other, each country securing its respective borders, but over the past 2 years, the Biden admin's failed border policies have inflicted significant harm to both countries. This meeting is a critical opportunity to roll out the new strategy, having been closely involved in advising former President Trump during his own negotiations with Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. I offer President Biden the following advice on how he can finally implement the American First border policy that's beneficial for both nations. So we're not going to go over too much of this, but yes, this is The Hill, even in an op-ed, being critical of Biden. And that was almost unheard of not that long ago. Alright, let's see if we can get just a couple more out of here. And I do think that a lot of this is going to wind up being things I like and things that I hate for the end of it. I almost want to just crank this song up because I love this song. The DJ that did this beat had his dad play harmonica for it. And it's so cool. I like it. More than 7,000 nurses go on strike across 2 New York City hospitals. From Mary Kekatos. More than 7,000 nurses at 2 hospitals in New York City went on strike early Monday morning, demanding better pay, better working conditions, and more staffing. The strike began at 0600 after nurses at Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx and Mount Sinai in Harlem failed to reach an agreement with hospital admin during a bargaining session Sunday night, according to the New York State Nurses Association. These nurses are dedicated professionals who provide quality patient care under unimaginable conditions the day in and day out that were exacerbated by the pandemic. Mario Cilento, president of the New York State AFL-CIO, a labor union, said on a statement on Monday. Now they're faced with the added challenge of short staffing that has reached critical levels and could compromise their ability to provide the best quality care to their patients. It's time for the hospitals to treat these nurses fairly with the dignity and respect they deserve, and to negotiate in good faith quickly to ensure nurses can get back to serving their communities by providing superior care to their patients, the statement continued. Where are we in pandemic? I think Quest Fanning is catching up at double speed right now. Which, given the fact that we've only got 5 more minutes till the Porch Boys, means he might not catch up to the live chat. Strikes occurring at 3 locations in the Bronx and 1 location in Manhattan will occur at 7 p.m. In a statement, Montefiore Medical Center said it offered a 19.1% compounded wage increase and promised to create more than 170 new nursing positions ahead of the strike. We remain committed to seamless and compassionate care, recognizing that the union's leadership decision will spark fear and uncertainty across our community, the statement read. So, I guess don't get sick in the Bronx or Manhattan. Oh, okay. I see what we did there. Don't get sick if you're in Manhattan or the Bronx, because you might be waiting a little while for the nurse to come and see you. Some news out of Georgia. Georgia grand jury ends probe of Trump 2020 election. From Kate Brumback. I think we'll do these 2, and then we'll head out of here for the day. The special grand jury in Atlanta that has been investigating whether then-President Trump and his allies committed any crimes while trying to overturn the 2020 election loss in Georgia has just finished its work, bringing the case closer to possible criminal charges against Trump and others. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney, who was overseeing the panel, issued a 2-page order on Monday, dissolving the special grand jury, saying it had completed its work and submitted a final report. The lengthy investigation has been one of several around the country that threaten legal peril for Trump as he mounts a 3rd bid for the White House. The decision to whether to seek an indictment from a regular grand jury will be up to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Willis spokesperson Jeff DeSantis said the office had no comment on the completion of the panel's work. Because it's a grand jury and it's sealed, we won't know until basically an indictment drops, which I don't think it's going to. McBurney wrote in a special order that the special grand jury recommended that its report be made public. He scheduled a hearing for January 24th to determine whether all or part of the report should be released, and said the district attorney's office and news outlets would be given an opportunity to make arguments at that hearing. Since June, the special grand jury has heard testimony from dozens of witnesses, including numerous close Trump associates such as former New York mayor and Trump attorney Giuliani, and Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Assorted high-ranking Georgia officials have also testified, among them Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger. Last month, the House committee investigating the Selfie Fest asserted on its final report that Trump criminally engaged in multi-part conspiracy to overturn the lawful results of the 2020 presidential election and failed to act to stop his supporters from attacking the Capitol. The report concluded that an extraordinary 18-month investigation into the former president and the violent Selfie Fest. Special grand juries in Georgia cannot issue indictments, but instead can issue a final report recommending actions to be taken. Well, I guess it'll be interesting to see on the 24th what comes out of this, if anything at all. But with that, it's 2,000 hours, which means we are going to turn the rest of the day over to the Porch Boys, but not without checking out the Twitter trending before we head out of here for the day. So let's get up the Explore page. Let's get on to trending and let's see what's happening today that Twitter thinks we should be talking about. Number 1, the Golden Globes. I can tell you one thing that I will not be talking about, and that is the Golden Globes. JNTR says heading to the Golden Globes with my RRR family. I don't know what RRR is, but Ke Huy Quan accepting his award for Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes. Don't know who that is. Angela Bassett winning a Golden Globe in '94, and Angela Bassett winning a Golden Globe in 2023. I do know who that is. Quinta Brunson wins Best Actress in a Comedy at Golden Globes for Abbott Elementary. I have not heard of most of these shows. Best original song goes to Not To Not To. No idea. Selena Gomez is there apparently. I have no idea. I think the only show that's been mentioned in this trend is the fact that one of the people that was mentioned, the people to follow, was Jenna Ortega, and I just got done watching Wednesday on Netflix. Other than that, I have no idea. Alright, number 2, Jennifer Coolidge. Stifler's mom. Who is going to the Golden Globes, apparently. Jennifer Coolidge in every scene of The White Lotus. Yep, I'm guessing. Stifler's mom has got it going on. All right. Well, the next one, Coachella. Some celebration in California. I have no idea what it is. You can't even dance to Frank Ocean, me when he opens Coachella with pyramids. Diligent performing at Coachella. No one could ever do what Kanye did at Coachella. Nobody. I must be getting old, because I have no idea who any of these people are. Me looking at some of the names in the Coachella lineup, well, yeah, they have no idea who some of these people are too, I guess. I've never heard of Blackpink before. Ever. I've heard Frank Ocean, but I have no idea who he is. I've heard of that, though. I guess if you want to go to Coachella, now's the time to go and figure out how to get tickets. Jeremy Allen is trending right now. Jeremy Allen does it for me, I don't know, says K Swap Out the Enthusiast. Jeremy Allen wins, White wins Best TV Actor at a Comedy at the Golden Globes. I don't know who that is. And I don't know what the bear is either, so... So is this like all stuff that's on network television? Because I haven't seen that in years. Again, I must be getting quite ancient. And the last trend is Vince. Vince McMahon forcing himself into positions without the consent of everyone involved is where all the trouble started in the first place. Probably. Paul Heyman with an all-time promo on Vince. That is a while ago. I remember this. I don't remember what they're saying, but I remember this. That was back when it was still WWF.
God!
And I guess the worst part about that is the advertisement coming in from AVG in the middle of this. But one of the worst parts of this is the fact that, like, these guys went off and had a beer together immediately after the cameras were off. June 17th, 2022, Stephanie McMahon was named interim CEO. July 22nd, Stephanie was named chairwoman and co-CEO. January 10th, Stephanie resigns as WWE co-CEO, and Vince McMahon is named executive chairman. So I guess he is back into it. Vince McMahon is back in power. I doubt he's probably going out and wrestling again, but it was kind of entertaining to see the actual CEO participating in everything too. Yeah. Stephanie, moments after Vince told her he was chairman again. She gone. Yep, she gone. Look at that. That was funny. I like that. And with that, I think we're done. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff we got through today. And again, we actually got to a point where the stuff that I have left is stuff for thing I like and thing that I hate on Thursday. So, yeah, we stayed on topic even with the 13-minute delay because Spectrum has decided that 6 p.m. apparently is the time when they go back and do all their internet maintenance. Because that's the time when I start losing connectivity again. I don't know what's causing it. I'm sure going to be having a phone conversation with somebody about it. But that's what we have for that. But with that, let's throw some outro music up and head out of here for the day. All right. Well, thank you, everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Again, we got a little bit of a late start today, but we're going to head out of here today. Do feel free to go head on over to the YouTube side and check out the Porch Boys over on Twitter. Great people who are going to be doing a call-in show tonight, so go check that out. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow to talk about more news, what's going on with the documents, what's going on with the border, what's probably going on with the House, too, because that dramatic scene is going to continue to unfold. And we will see you here for that. Plus, we will do something that I'm thankful for, so look forward to that as well. If you are just lurking, get those last-minute messages in. I do write down the names of everybody who chats in the live chat, and I say a special thank you to everybody here. And if you're lurking, I can't say thank you to you because you need to leave at least one message to generate your name in the list. It's how the stat tracker comes out and shows that you're here. But come back and join us for that. Otherwise, if you're on Twitch, stick around because we can't go raid the Porch Boys because they don't have a Twitch. We will go find somebody else to go watch on this channel. Definitely looking forward to that. We will see you here next time. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.